We've got to talk about Blackout Bowen and how he is destroying the energy grid in this energy-rich country. Let me bring in late debate co-host Caleb Bond and also the blogger to the Nation Daily Telegraph columnist Tim Blair. Great to have you both on board because you're going to help me decipher what on earth this bloke is doing to our country and what sort of a delusional world he lives in. I want to show some of the things he's been saying today and get you guys to unpick it for me. Let's start with the way he would explain this to the world. This is what he posted on Facebook today.
We know that renewable energy is good for prices. We know it's good for emissions. And we need to make sure our energy system's reliable as well. Getting new energy on before the coal-fired power stations close. We've waited too long in the past for this sort of stuff. The Albanese government's getting on with it.
Tim, could you explain what part of that to you makes any sense?
There's a lot of self-justification in there, wasn't there? But I love how, it's quite appropriate. Look at the headline there. Labor gambles tax dollars on green scheme. We've all seen the gambling ads. Yeah. You never win. You should back out early. Also, I loved how as well people are referring to Chris Bowen's plans. I mean, we all have plans. I mean, every cricket team in the world plans to hit 500 runs. But when, like Chris Bowen, you're the equivalent of 3 for 11 after 2 overs, go a different way, mate. You don't have Glenn Maxwell in the shed. You're lucky to have Maxwell House.
Chris Bowen, you are no Travis Head. I mean, Caleb, the delusional stuff. He says renewable energy is good for prices. I mean, where is the evidence for that?
Well, where's our $275? That's what I want to know. I mean, look, I've got plans to go home and have a bottle of red tonight, and I'd probably be drinking 389 if I could afford it, but I didn't get my $275, did I? And, of course, he says, it's good for prices, and we need to get all this renewable energy online before the coal-fired, the unreliable coal-fired power goes offline. Oh, I wonder why that coal-fired power's going offline. Let me think. It's because you took all the money away and you gave it to renewable energy that is hideously expensive and doesn't work when the wind's blowing. We had all the infrastructure there. The infrastructure in many cases is still there. The power companies just haven't maintained it because the government gave so much money to renewables, up the wazoo, to the point where it's cheaper for an AGL or an Origin or whatever to themselves invest in renewable energy. We did this to ourselves.
Exactly. This is he and Albanese keep saying, we're in strife because coal-fired power stations are shutting down and they're a bit... That's the aim of their policies. These policies are designed to drive coal-fired power stations out of action, and when it works, they say, we haven't got enough electricity. It is mindless, but let's look at some more examples. Here he was on breakfast television this morning.
Well, the more renewables you have into the system, the cheaper energy will be, because the sun doesn't send a bill and the wind also doesn't send an invoice.
Oh, Caleb, I've got to get you... He's a songwriter. This guy, I want to put that to music, to the way the sun doesn't send a bill and the wind doesn't send an invoice. Caleb, like me, you're an ex-South Australian, so you would know all too well that state has more wind energy and solar energy than any other state and has no baseload power whatsoever. How are things going down there?
Well, look, a lot of parents would say that their sons do send them bills, so a few people might disagree with that. But, look, I distinctly remember that evening when all the lights went out in Adelaide, and I was working at the Advertiser at the time, and I was walking down King William Street through the guts of the Adelaide CBD, and it was an awful, rainy, hideously cold day. No lights were working, the trams weren't working, the city was chaos. Because, one tower fell over and that was it. The whole bloody thing blew up. Now, in South Australia, as you say, they have the most renewable energy of any state in the country. And South Australia has for a long time had some of the most expensive power in the world. Just ask anyone who lives there. It doesn't work. Oh, the sun doesn't send a bill. Well, you know who does? The person who builds the infrastructure. And you know who pays that bill? You and me, the taxpayer.
And we're paying for the infrastructure as well. And you know who owns it? China. Wow, we're a clever country, aren't we?